Second Cup, brought to you by the Nickel Plate. Sit, sip, savor, and shop.
Hi, everyone. Good morning to you. It's 8. This is like robotics at this point. It's 7:45. We're starting Second Cup just a little bit early this morning so that we can keep you posted on the breaking news that we are continuing to follow this morning of that mega IT outage that is affecting flights, banks, potentially credit cards, hospitals, all across the area.
Here's the deal. So let's just start with what happened this morning. So we come in. First, we notice our news systems are down, okay? That's what our producers see. We come in. It's actually this massive worldwide tech outage that's impacting so many things, not just an internal issue. So Ed and I are like, all right, right off the bat, we got to figure out what's the Western New York impact here. So we started by calling police stations, different sheriff's departments, trying to figure out, can people still use 911? Are emergency services still good? Long story short, yep, you can still call 911. Their radios are working, their phones are working. What's not working is their computer system. So they had to handwrite everything, and then they're going to have to get them into the system eventually.
The airport seems to be under control this morning. There are at least a dozen delayed flights leaving the Buffalo Niagara International Airport. Earlier this morning, we had reported there was a full ground stop with American, Delta, and United, though it appears at least some flights are taking off from the airport, which is certainly some good news for those people who are leaving, though you are being urged to check in with your airline before you actually head to the airport. All things considered, most flights are going to be off schedule. Despite the fact that the airport is saying most things are on as schedule. Well, the biggest concern is those connections.
Yeah, like if you're going somewhere, because not only, it's not just a national thing, it's a worldwide thing. So like whether you're, let's say you're flying in New York City and then you're going to try to get to, I'll say Ireland, you know, something like that. Like you just don't know if your flight's going to be able to take off. And as we see all of these delays pile up too, we know what that does to our connecting flights.
Before we go back on the air for a quick cut into Good Morning America, I just want to update you with two very important updates from Kaleida Health and Roswell as well. We heard from Mike Hughes a little while ago while we were live on the air, just about 6:50 this morning. I'm going to read you what he sent us. Around midnight, CrowdStrike, the antivirus software company, ran its worldwide update, he says. Like so many, Kaleida Health was initially impacted from an information technology standpoint. They activated their internal incident command center to maintain operations. They implemented their normal downtime computer procedures to ensure safe patient care. We are encouraging all staff and patients to report as scheduled. For patients, this would include surgeries, outpatient procedures, ambulatory and clinic visits, and any type of physician's appointment. From Roswell, they're releasing a statement to us that says Roswell Park patient appointments, surgeries, and procedures will proceed as planned today. They're experiencing technology disruptions as a result of this global outage, but care is not impacted. Patients should arrive to appointments as scheduled, they say.
And that's something important too. So not only, you know, Roswell, but also all the Kaleida facilities, they're saying, make sure if you have an appointment, you're still going. Don't just not go. That's really important. We had a number of people who were asking about banks before. I reached out to Matt from KeyBank. He's one of their spokespeople, and bless you. Saw that one coming.
Thank you.
He told me, he's like, listen, I'm checking into this right now. I want to find out what services are going to be impacted for our customers. I'm going to get back to you as soon as possible. If I get that email anytime within the next half hour or so, I'll let you know as soon as I hear from him. Gas stations. Bless you.
Thank you.
I called a number of gas stations because people were asking, hey, what's with them? Are they working? Seemed like most of them were still working. It was the credit card systems that were a question mark at some, but the couple that I called said they weren't having a hard time running credit cards. So listen, if you desperately need to get to the gas station, maybe you just call ahead of time to double check if you've got to use your credit card. But it didn't really seem like it was that big of an issue for some of them.
Okay, so Barbara says, wowza, go to bed and wake up, all chaos breaks. No kidding. So we saw this overnight. And then all of those alerts were coming in saying that this was a global outage. We're seeing people overseas, like in London, all of the European
stock
news
markets
agencies,
and stuff. Yeah, it was,
they were all affected here. And so, you know, obviously there's local news to cover as well. But realistically, when it comes to the immediate impact here in Western New York, you're still able to call 911.
Right.
You're still able to get emergency services here to Western New Yorkers, despite the fact that, you know, so many people who are in those agencies are now having to do things by hand as if there were no computers.
So CNN is saying right now, this was from 2 minutes ago, that Delta paused flights worldwide because of a tech outage. Say they're pausing them right now because of this IT outage, working to resolve this issue as quickly as possible. So we'll have to wait and see. It did seem, again, at the airport, like they were putting people through security and getting them to gates. And we did see a couple of flights take off. But CNN's reporting that Delta has paused operations right now. Oh my God, there's a hilarious picture too. I wish I could show this to you. This is a Philadelphia airport. A lot different, let's be real, than the Buffalo airport. Okay, sure. Philadelphia is so much bigger, but it looked like it was pretty chaotic earlier there.
Scully says, what happens if it happens here? Well, I mean,
well, it's happening.
It did happen here. It is happening here. We are watching the actual impact of what that means for folks here, including the idea of emergency services, hospitals, grocery stores. I checked in with Kathy Sauter from Tops. They're really not seeing much of an impact. Though when I asked about the credit card issue in particular, she was basically telling me that they tested a few transactions at their store and they had no issue. So it might be a bank and case-by-case scenario.
Somebody mentioned like their direct deposit didn't go through. Somebody reached out and told me that. So that's why I reached out to KeyBank. So again, waiting to hear back from them. We'll see what they have to say.
A lot of people were also asking about the bridges and traffic. Really, like, the Thruway is not affected. Your Easy Pass is not affected here. We've got our Jordan Johnson standing by at the airport. We're going to check in with her at the top of the hour. It is a Microsoft issue is really what it comes down to, is what Kelly is saying for sure.
Yeah, it's actually this, like, whatever that antivirus program is. CrowdStrike. And John, you know what? My key is stuck. Could you fix that for me? And the CEO of CrowdStrike said more than an hour ago that they had identified the problem and it was John, my key is still stuck. Could you fix that for me? And that a fix has been deployed. So this is a cybersecurity firm, CrowdStrike. They identified the issue. They're putting out a fix. But like, let's be real, a fix doesn't happen in 2 seconds.
So we were also watching the bridges for you because obviously when it comes to a computer issue, you would suspect that government agencies are also affected here. What we need to do really is reach out to the Border Protection Agency and see what their deal is. And you know what? I should probably text the guy who's in charge of that, and I'll do that for you. But the Peace Bridge seeing 91-minute delay coming into the country. To Canada, it's about 15 minutes. The Rainbow Bridge seeing an 86-minute delay coming into the U.S., and the Lewis and Queenston Bridge seeing about a 50-minute delay coming into the country.
Yeah, so you guys let us know if there's anything that we could try to answer for you. That's basically what we've been doing this morning, trying to gather as much information as possible. And then if you guys had something you reached out to us about, somebody had specifically asked about casinos earlier. So we reached out there. Hamburg Gaming had told us, yes, they were impacted. They were having an issue taking credit Hamburg Gaming said they were having an issue, but they didn't specify, I don't think. It was Seneca Allegheny said they were having an issue with credit cards. And the reason we wanted to really check in on these things is not just because everybody's going to the casino, but they're a huge employer. Like the Seneca Niagara, a huge employer here, Seneca Buffalo Creek. So we're still waiting to hear the exact impact there. But in some capacity, a couple of them said, yeah, they were having a little bit of an issue, especially when it came to credit cards.
So I'm just sending a quick email to the spokesperson from Customs and Border Protection to try and get an update about what's happening at the border. Because obviously when you see these cameras, you're kind of like, well, what the heck is going on? Is this normal traffic, or is this as a result of those issues that
is this
seeing?
A Friday morning traffic issue, or is it, bigger issue? Barbara wants to know, I'm assuming not all businesses and government agencies use the same cyber companies. No, but the thing is, so many of them use Microsoft-based things. There are so many Microsoft-based programs. So even though they might not use the same ones, there are hundreds of applications of these Microsoft programs. Like we saw an example in our newsroom this morning when one of our systems wasn't really working. So it was kind of like a news system that you wouldn't use at your office, much like you probably have ones that we don't use, but all of them seem to have some sort of impact there. Let's see here. Felice loves our multitasking capabilities. Thank you, Felice.
This is literally every single day.
Teresa is saying the Social Security Administration in West Seneca computers are down as of now. Teresa, do you work there? Let us know. And if you do, let us know the workaround and what you want us to pass along to people, because we're happy to do it. Lori says, listen, I'm glad I'm not on a bus crossing into Canada right now. John, if you can get into the StreamYard, let's get those NITEC cameras, because we're definitely going to want those at some point. So we're going to be able to pull those up. That's our producer, John, that I'm talking to.
Okay, we've just got about a minute to go
You
until...
guys are going to see us start talking directly to the cameras because we're going to do a cut-in for news, which is going to air on television as well. So we're just going to pause from our live stream, do that, and then we'll come back to you. You'll also hear Autumn in the background, by the way, because we can't really talk while she's doing her weather.
Of course, this guy's out.
You know what? This is a popular week for vacations. It's something
apparently.
Okay, Rafi saying the DMV uses Microsoft. For those who don't know yet, are they down as well?
Are you going to start or am I? I'll start.
You can start. Yeah, we'll go to the airport.
John, I don't hear you in my IFB. Thank you. Hi, everyone. Good morning to you. It's 7:56 on the start of your Friday morning. We're continuing to follow that breaking news of that massive IT outage that's global, now affecting folks here in Western New York. I want to take you live to the Buffalo Niagara International Airport this morning and show you the situation there with our 7 News reporter, Jordan Johnson, who is monitoring what's happening here. We're being told that there are some ground stoppages for flights with Delta, American Airlines, and United, though at this point we do know some flights are in fact leaving from the Buffalo Niagara International Airport. So
Jordan is going to stay there for us this morning. We are going to be live on our Facebook page and on our app at 8 o'clock. So check in with us there. We're going to be able to answer any questions that you have. Also want to let you know 911 services are still working across Western New York. The phones and the radios are working. If you call police, you will have someone respond to you. Hospitals, if you have something scheduled, a surgery, a procedure, hospitals are being impacted because of their computer systems, but you should show up as scheduled for any procedure that you might have.
If you do have a flight leaving from the Buffalo Niagara International Airport, you're being told to contact the airline prior to leaving for the airport to see what exactly is going on. And if your flight is leaving from Buffalo, the biggest concern here is for those connections. And as we've seen, especially in Philadelphia, one of those big hubs, there are many delays and cancellations. Here at the Buffalo Airport, we're seeing about at least a dozen cancellations as of this morning.
All right, so we're going to continue to follow that for you. Join us at 8 o'clock for Second Cup. Autumn Lewandowski is in, tracking your forecast for today and keeping an eye on the roads.
Well, most of our roadways are doing great within Western New York now. If you're traveling over any bridge to the U.S., it's between an hour and an hour and a half, 94 minutes. This is a look across the bridge all the way back to Canada, so that you have to cross over the bridge and then get to our toll plaza. So keep that in mind this morning. We are nice and dry this morning. We have some valley fog across the southern tier that will continue to burn off through the day. Temperatures are in the low 60s, will be in the 70s this afternoon.
Okay, so we're going to reset here. Maybe we'll re-roll the open at the top of the hour. John, what do you think about that? Does that make sense?
I think that's a good idea.
Me too. Of course not. Well, in the meantime, hi, Sarah. Good morning to you. Glad you're with us to start the day. What is going on? That is a great question.
Thank you, Sarah. We've been saying that since we walked in this morning.
Sarah is probably wondering, along with everyone else, what the heck is happening here. And the reality is there has been a massive global meltdown when it comes to an IT system, thanks basically to an antivirus software that updated overnight. Mm-hmm. And at this point, it seems that they are trying to get things back up and running. It's slow, but there are many things that are affected, many computer systems that are affected, including so many of your Microsoft systems. It affected us here, quite frankly, and we were kind of trying to make it work.
We're
this
at
morning.
The mercy of what works. Does that make sense? Like, we just did what we could and figured out, we're going to do, whatever works to get people the information. Andrea, I'm interested in hearing more about where you work. You have a smaller company being affected too, work for person-centered services. Okay, and they use Microsoft, can't log into their systems, can't use their systems. This is going to be something a lot of people are going to be dealing with when they show up to work.
Okay, I'm just texting John to roll the open again.
Second Cup, brought to you by the Nickel Plate. Sit, sip, savor, and shop.
Good morning to you once again. It is 8 o'clock on the start of a Friday.
Feels like Groundhog Day. We've said
Glad
good
you're
morning
with us for Second
so many
Cup.
times.
Okay, so we are on the air this morning. We're on Second Cup, kind of an extended version of Second Cup. We're going to be with you until 9 o'clock this morning, talking about that massive global IT issue that is affecting so many people and so many systems, not only here in Western New York, statewide, across the country, and around the world.
Okay, so here's what you need to know, and here's what we were doing. We got in this morning. So many different systems are impacted if they had some capacity of using Microsoft, all right? And so that was not exclusive to us. We're hearing a lot of small businesses, RN saying no issues at his company, but hospitals are being impacted with the way that they use patient charts. We know there's a lot of electronic charts that they use these days. 911 services still fully functional. You can still call. You're going to get police. You're going to get fire to your house. They're probably taking reports, though, via paper because their electronic services aren't working as well.
Okay, so we are working to make sure that you get all of the latest information. I want to take you live to the Buffalo Niagara International Airport. There are about a dozen flights that have been delayed so far this morning. A couple of flights here and there are, in fact, getting out, though that doesn't mean that your flight, even if it does get out, will not be delayed from wherever it is that you're connecting to.
Right, that's the concern. So airports all across the country and all across the world were dealing with this. For example, just about an hour ago, we saw Dubai, one of the biggest airports in the world, said we're just starting to get things back online.
So we've been talking about this outage and how there was a ground stop for Delta, American, and United flights. It appears, though, that so many of those flights are operating in some capacity here at the Buffalo Niagara International Airport. I want to bring in our 7 News reporter, Jordan Johnson, who is live for us at the airport this morning to set the scene and describe what we're seeing there and bring us any breaking updates from the NFTA, which operates the airport. Jordan.
Yeah, absolutely. No updates from the NFTA, but if you just take a look right now, these are people that are waiting for flight updates. And joining me right now is actually a passenger, Scott. So kind of tell me what they have told you and what's happening with your flight.
We had an 8 o'clock flight. We got here plenty of time, and we waited in a very long line because all the self-check kiosks are down due to the outage. We finally got to the front of the line, and she told us, oh, that flight is rebooked. You got to go over in that line over there. So now we've been in this line for probably another half an hour, and there's 50 people standing in front of us, and each one takes, I'm guessing, 5-10 minutes because they have to rebook the flight. So it's just a long, slow process.
Definitely. And you got here very early. I remember
early.
seeing you guys when we were first in here heading to check in.
Yep.
So what does this feel like? Where were you guys heading?
We were going to Chicago and then to Fargo, North Dakota, but I can imagine Chicago is probably a mess too. So probably a good thing we didn't get out of Buffalo.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Scott, for
You're
explaining
welcome,
that to me. Yeah. So I came over here because I saw this long line of people. I also looked on the flight boards and saw that several flights were delayed. And now, if you take a look, there are 2 that are at least canceled. So that is the update right now. I will reach back out to the NFTA to provide an update. But Kelly Katif did say that there are flights that are taking off from the airport. It's just a matter of when they'll be able to leave.
You know, Jordan, I see so many people behind you. Can you kind of walk us down the line and just take a look at what it actually looks like here at the airport and what everybody's saying to you?
Yep, absolutely. So this is the American Airlines line where people are being rebooked and told to rebook, and it's taking forever for them to get through. But then if you come this way to security, they're still letting people through, which is a very good thing. And then all the way down here at the other United line, it's a little shorter than it was this morning that we showed you.
Jordan, I wonder, the feeling at the airport has got to be one of frustration. When you're going away and you are leaving and you expect to see that you can just get on a flight, that's not happening here this morning. And Barbara, who's a retired aircraft dispatcher, is weighing in here. She says that pilots, dispatchers all need to be able to communicate with each other and that this is going to trickle down as aircraft and flight crews will be delayed due to duty times in particular. Right. So when people like the gentleman who you just heard from are being rebooked, what is the feeling among those passengers at the airport this morning.
Right. So you actually missed it earlier before I walked over to Scott. People were very frustrated. They were frustrated with the attendance. They were just frustrated in general because this is their weekend plans, their vacation plans that they waited for. And it's a Friday. So it's a busy travel day. And so they're just wanting to be able to make their connections and not be stranded. That's the biggest thing that I've heard. People don't want to be stranded. And I also spoke with a couple that were going to get married tomorrow in Tulum, Mexico. And they're now not going to be able to do that because the flight is delayed. So that's so unfortunate. I know, it's so unfortunate. And they were the sweetest couple. And so it's just an air of frustration and just kind of unknowing because no one really knows what's going to happen within the next few hours or even day.
Now, and Jordan, I also wonder, that gentleman that you spoke with mentioned that some of the self-check-in kiosks were not working because of the computer outage. So is TSA seeing any of those outages, or, you know, perhaps with the folks who operate the Clear machines, if you've got that Clear pass, are those working?
They seem to be working, Ed. I don't know if you can, my camera is not that great because I can't zoom on this, but you can see that people are getting in and through them, but there are still, like, this is the shortest line I've seen at the airport this early in the morning. Okay. So they seem to be getting through just fine.
All right. Well, so that's a good thing that they're still getting people through TSA, through security, and moving them on, but it is taking time to rebook people.
I wonder if we could pull up the big board here from the Buffalo Niagara International Airport. I just want to scroll down here because I'm looking at it myself. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. Flights have been delayed. 1, 2, 3 have been canceled. The rest are on schedule. But again, as we heard from the NFTA, it's really not necessarily Buffalo. Right. It's those connections.
And you know what, again, Barbara is saying, pack your patience and keep in mind, it's not the employee's fault. Be kind. And you know, Jordan, when you talked to Scott before, he seemed to have kind of a really good outlook where he was like, listen, maybe it's for the best that we didn't get out of Buffalo because I can only imagine what Chicago's like right now.
Yeah, Scott was just like one of the many passengers. I was like, maybe this is a blessing in disguise that I'm not stranded in a city where I don't know anyone and I don't have access to a hotel. So honestly, having that positivity is very important this morning because this is something that's out of our control. And it's just the waiting game at this point.
So Barbara says she lives near the airport and that it is eerily quiet because normally there are a lot of flights coming and going, flying over her house, I assume. But again, so many of these flights have been delayed and or canceled as a result of these ground stops that have been affecting so many different airlines, including American, Delta, and United, a result of this tech outage overnight.
Jordan, thank you. Stay there.
Thank you, guys.
We may check back in with you throughout the rest of the show. We're going to stay here with you guys for a while.
Marguerite.
What did she say?
Whenever possible, I try to get direct flights. No kidding.
Oh, yeah, Marguerite. That's truly what it's all about. I did want to bring up Sarah's comment, too, because I saw that she said around 1 this morning, all the systems went down in the hospital. Patients arriving for scheduled procedures this morning. We're still not sure what was going to happen with everyone. It's scary how reliant we are really on technology. Sarah, explain to us what hospital you're talking about. Do you work in the hospital system, or were you with somebody who was waiting for a scheduled procedure? Again, by all accounts, what we've heard from most hospitals is that should you have a scheduled procedure, something to go to this morning, show up, make sure you're there for the time. It sounds like hospitals, for good reason, have contingency plans when it comes to IT going down.
You know, and it's so interesting. I don't know that I would have ever thought about that until I heard from Dr. Turkovich this morning, who's the president of Oshai Children's Hospital, a Kaleida Health facility, who told me, quite frankly, that they prepare for this kind of thing. And when you think about technology nowadays, that is so important to prepare for the worst.
We're so reliant on it too.
Yes.
But there's a contingency system in place. Someone's not watching enough Grey's Anatomy over here. No, I'm just kidding.
It's true.
But really, yeah. So they do actually have, you know, plans for this. They are able to still operate when things like this happen.
Kelsey is a medic in the Jamestown area. Glad you're with us this morning, Kelsey. We are so thankful for you. She says all the 911 systems went down briefly last night till backups kicked on. So I want to address that in particular because a lot of people, I think, see this and kind of rightly so believe that it's a very concerning situation, and it is. Let me kind of alleviate those concerns for you. If you call 911 this morning in any of our municipalities, That includes Erie County, Niagara County, Chautauqua, Cattaraugus, Wyoming County, just for instance. These are the ones that we spoke to this morning. You will, in fact, speak with a dispatcher, and you will have emergency services dispatched to you.
Yep, no issue.
The thing is, all of these people who are, again, reliant on computer systems that talk to each other will not be able to use those systems. So they're operating as if there were no computers like they did in the old days. And they're using pen and paper to try and figure all of this out.
So Sarah's answering the question that I had asked back to her. She says she works at Gates Vascular, Buffalo Hospitals. All of them were having these issues. They were working on them, getting things back up when she was leaving the night shift, but it was really slow. Not sure how things are now, but a lot of doctors may have had to cancel elective procedures.
So Gates, obviously part of Buffalo General, a Kaleida Health facility. We spoke with Mike Hughes on the phone about 6:50 this morning. Kaleida Health has also released a statement to us, and I want to read it to you in full. This is what they say. About midnight, CrowdStrike, which is an antivirus software company running its worldwide update overnight, like so many, Kaleida Health was initially impacted from an information technology standpoint. About 3 a.m., we activated our internal incident command center to ensure that we can maintain operations. To that end, we implemented our normal computer downtime procedures to ensure safe patient care. We are encouraging all staff and patients to report as scheduled. For patients, this would include surgeries, outpatient procedures, ambulatory and clinic visits, and any type of physician appointments.
I want to pull up Edna's comment here. Edna, I'm interested. Would you tell us how you know this? She says St. Mary's Hospital is canceling procedures. Edna, do you work there? Do you have any information on that? We have not heard that.
Well, we've also reached out to Catholic Health.
However, so we were just mentioning this is a very popular vacation week.
Right.
It turns out the person we reached out to there had mentioned it was vacation, so she's not in. So we're still working to get that information confirmed. Edna, let us know where you got that info from.
I also want to know, okay, I'm just getting back a message from Dan Myers, because we had mentioned this morning that Monroe County's Emergency Operations Center had been open and operational, considering they had some IT issues this morning. But again, their 911 services were working. So I wondered what the deal was in Erie County in particular, because we know that Erie County services also were affected here, though their 911 situation was operational as well. Peter Anderson on vacation, out of the office today. Dan Myers is going to speak with the county executive when he gets in this morning about his interest / availability for an interview later today if we're still interested.
All right. A couple of people had asked about banking as well. I think that's an important thing, because someone had mentioned earlier that their direct deposit didn't automatically go in.
Briefly, Edna, just following up. She says she's a patient and they called her to reschedule.
Fantastic. So, okay, Edna, thank you for letting us know. So if you're having a banking issue, I reached out to Matt from KeyBank, and he just emailed me back. He said, listen, I'm following up. We're aware of the global issue involving Microsoft and CrowdStrike. KeyBank does not use CrowdStrike internally, but they're continuing to investigate any impact the issue might have on their third-party service providers. So that's something that you could be seeing at your bank, depending on how the direct deposit works and the systems that they use. KeyBank says they're still following up to see how it's impacting third parties.
Elizabeth says, Sisters Hospital has canceled my diagnostic testing for this morning. They will keep me updated.
Okay.
And of course, your poor dog, Yerusha, canceled this morning. Okay, so for a lot of those nurses and doctors, it's going to be a hectic day, because a lot of the systems that they use, especially at not Catholic Health. What was it, Catholic Health? I think it might have been, actually.
I missed what you were saying. I was trying to.
Yeah, it was from Mercy Hospital. So their system called Everbridge is down. That's their system they use to send out codes and communications. So they can't do either. Some computers, they say, won't even turn on. One operator had to call a code, and that was done overhead because those computers weren't responding. So, you see it in the TV shows, code blue, or code red. It's all being done overhead, as opposed to in the...
It's like here in the newsroom where we have that one old school microphone that can broadcast to the entire newsroom.
Literally the one. It's so funny.
Chaz, question for you. Where do you work? Because he's saying our systems at my work can't clock in and can't order parts. So let us know where you're working and how that's impacting you. Would love to hear more.
Shirley says, as usual, you're doing a great job keeping everyone informed. Thank you so much, Shirley. Let's call it what it is. We were also impacted here overnight.
Mhm.
Our chief engineer, Mike Anger, here working so hard to get us up online and back up and running. But this wasn't just a Channel 7 issue. This was an entire EW Scripps issue. So a lot of our stations across the country were seeing a lot of the same things. You got that blue screen of death when you walked in and you were looking at a Microsoft computer this morning.
You know, we all know how reliant we are on technology.
Mhm.
Now, luckily, many times there's a workaround, right? We came up with a workaround. We were able to do that. A lot of the hospitals coming up with a workaround now. But like, this is just one of those things where we're relying on technology. And when you come into your computer and like you get that blue screen of death, you're like, you've got to be kidding me.
I know,
Happy
it's
Friday
so
to
frustrating.
me. Yeah.
Right? You just want to like make it through Friday and you want to get to the weekend. And now here we are. And it's kind of one of those things that you've got to deal with. Your mom weighing in here, Katie, saying, I think some ATMs would be third-party bank machines, so they may not be available.
That's definitely a possibility. A couple people asked about gas stations. I made a couple calls to a number of gas stations. The one guy I talked with was so nice. And he was at, I think, an Exxon station. And he was like, no, everything seems to be working for us. He goes, our credit cards have been working all morning. Let me check one more time for you. And I heard him run something. He goes, they're working.
Okay.
So just know that.
Somebody also here, K.A. Zach, glad you're with us as well, wondering about stores. So we were talking about this a lot this morning when it comes to like Target, Walmart, Tops, and Wegmans. I did reach out to the spokesperson for Tops. And we were going back and forth this morning. Her name is Kathy Sauter. She's wonderful, a big friend of the show. Apparently, Tops has not been affected by this global outage, so it's business as normal for them. And then I asked her about credit cards because a lot of people were using credit cards at these stores. You know, when you tap it on that machine or you slide it through, you insert your chip, whatever it is. She says that the systems and registers are working, but there are many different banks or credit cards that could potentially be impacted, so they can't speak to the operating systems. But they tested a few transactions at one of their stores and had no issue.
Okay, that's good. Chaz, following up with me because I asked, well, where do you work? Why can't you can't order parts? I work in Monroe. We have a lot of good deals going on. Come to 155 French Road. We're not going to let it impact them. So he's at Monroe Tire. Good to know that they're able to do something.
Somebody also asked about New York State.
Chaz wants a raise, I think.
Welcome, Chaz, don't we all? Hello, cost of living adjustment. What's that? Somebody had asked about New York State's inspection computers because those inspection computers are now being run and printing out those stickers.
Yeah.
So one of my relatives, and I use relatives lightly, it's an extended family member of.
We've all got them. We get it. Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like it's Russ's cousin. It's his second cousin.
Yeah.
He owns a car repair shop and does inspections. So I've reached out to him. He told me that last night it was working. Once he gets in, he'll let us know. He said this would make for a rather interesting day if it does not work.
No kidding. You know, a couple other people, like these are just the questions we've been getting all morning about the throughway tolls. All right. So I reached out to someone I know who works at the throughway, told me they haven't been impacted at all. Tolls were still fine because think about it. Now we drive through, right? You don't stop and give your money to somebody anymore. We've got the electronic tolls. They all seem to be operating totally fine.
Barb wonders if it impacts funds being sent to your account electronically.
So that we're still waiting to hear, Barb, because somebody did message that their direct deposit was delayed this morning. So then KeyBank said they don't directly use this system, but third parties might. So if that runs through a third party at all, maybe. And the thing is, that was just KeyBank. There's so many banks. So depending on who your bank uses.
I saw Lori earlier this morning. She was talking with us about M&T in particular. She, I believe, works for Erie County and was mentioning that her electronic transfer went through using M&T's system. And then Chaz also following up, he says that he does inspections at Monroe and that they are in fact working at that French Road location.
Every copy is going to be going and getting their inspection from Chaz from now on.
Sarah, can we talk about Sarah's comment here? My girl, I am right there.
Say we all go home and start the weekend now.
You know, Russell called me this morning in between our show and you know, between 7 o'clock and 7:15, we're kind of usually taking a deep breath because we're on the air with you for 2 hours and, you know, we're constantly going. And
we like to just play Wordle for a minute.
We need to kind of like put our brains at rest. I don't think either of us got a chance to do that this morning.
We tried to shove a little food in.
Yeah. Russ called me and I'm like, what do you want? I can't talk to you.
Paul's texting me right now, asking me questions. And I'm like,
he's talking to me about things that are happening later today. I'm like, I haven't even got to breakfast.
Right.
Help me help you.
Renee, thank you for letting us know that Citizens Direct Deposit working well right now. That's good to know. If you bank with Citizen Bank, let's pull up those bridges. The cameras on the bridges here.
Briefly though, before we do that, Connie says that she's with Bank of America and that her electronic transfer has not gone in.
Good to know.
So we'll keep an eye on that as well.
Okay, so our Sierra producer John is working to pull up the bridges in Canada right now, because what we really noticed, and here's the thing, we don't check the bridges every day. I'm not going to lie to you guys. Like, we check when there's a big issue or a big
pull them up
backup.
here or there.
I feel like this is maybe an extensive backup, though.
Yeah, I agree. So we're looking at the NITEC website here, and they track the border crossings.
Has that been updated right now?
It's live for sure.
Okay.
I mean, take a look at this. This is coming into the U.S. from the Peace Bridge. Coming into the U.S., there is more than an 80-minute delay at the Peace Bridge, but at the Rainbow Bridge in Niagara Falls, it's even worse. We're saying up to 2 hours to come into the United States from Niagara Falls. The Rainbow Bridge seeing the biggest delay this morning. So I wonder if we pull up the Rainbow Bridge
let's
camera.
take a look at that.
Because that seems to be where the issue is. But it's so interesting. It looks like this is a US only delay, because when you're looking at the camera going into Canada, there doesn't seem to be any traffic whatsoever. At the Lewis and Queenston Bridge, it's just a little more than a half hour coming into the US. I did reach out to Customs and Border Protection to try and figure out, okay, well, look at the Rainbow Bridge. Holy cow.
Yeah.
Again, when you look at the left-hand side of your screen coming into Canada, there's barely any traffic. Going into the country, coming into the US, there is a massive delay, almost 2 hours worth. So it's affecting a lot of people. You're going to be stuck in this. This is like New York City traffic for what it's worth. I did reach out to Customs and Border Protection to try and figure out if this was normal traffic or if this was just a result of the computer outage. The one person that we typically deal with here in the Buffalo sector office is out and on vacation. They provided an alternate email address. I also emailed that person to try and get some information. So still waiting to hear back. And once I do, we'll keep you posted. It's not going to be a fun day for traveling.
Yeah, it's and you know what? Here's the thing. It's a Friday. So right off the bat, a lot of people probably try to get early to where they're going, right? To take the holiday weekend somewhere. So that was probably on some people's minds. We also know a lot of people travel to the US from Canada. They're staying in their cottages during the summer. So that's part of it too. Yeah, it's just not fun.
So Allison, good morning to you. She says she just woke up, and what is going on in this world? Well,
Allison, I love that. And you're not the first person who's woken up to ask us that.
So this happened overnight. There was a massive IT outage that affected everything from municipalities using their cloud-based services to airport communications, even media. Some banks were affected as well. What does this mean for you? It just means that it's going to be a really difficult day to use technology. 911 operations are still in effect. If you call 911, you got an emergency, they're still going to respond. They're just not using computers like so many of us probably are not as well.
Hospitals, their electronic records are having an issue with, as you can imagine. Again, because so many things are Microsoft based and so many things have this cybersecurity, issue. So what they're doing right now is moving forward with the procedures they can. Now, some of you who are joining us have said, listen, I got a call from my hospital. I had a procedure scheduled for today. They told me they're canceling it. They're going to move it. So you may be hearing from your hospital, but they are saying, should you have something set in place, plan to show up if you don't hear from them.
Parker's Pit says, my bank account app was down this morning, and Melly says she reached out to a few coworkers to see if they're having issues at Catholic Health. She's going to follow up with us. We've got to go back on TV, but we're going to continue our live stream here with you on Second Cup until 9 o'clock for a special second edition of Second Cup.
So do us a favor, just hang on. Any questions you have, go ahead and drop them here in the comments. We'll get back to them as soon as we can. And we're going to be on television shortly. Do a couple news stories there.
Hey, John, before we get back on the air, are we taking a live look at the airport again? And can you just run us down? Okay.
Can you hear him in your iPhone? John,
okay. We're 2 minutes out.
Hear you.
Okay.
I'm hearing you, though.
I think it's probably from StreamYard. You're not hearing John at all?
And I'm hearing you. I'm hearing me too.
John, give Katie an IFB check if you can.
Now I hear you, John.
Okay. I think it's because we're simulcasting.
I've got mixed minus.
We'll be fine.
It's one of those mornings. Okay, so is it the same?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Toss to the airport.
Okay.
Though I don't see the airport live shot up.
Wait, DL just texted.
My
camera
can we
battery
pull up
just
the VO? Is he talking to you?
Yeah, he
He's
said
not talking
DL's
to me.
battery died.
I can't hear him.
Okay, I'll start this one.
I'll follow your lead.
Okay, John, do you have VO for the airport? He's putting it in.
Okay. We've got about 30 seconds before we go back on TV, so we see all your comments here. Yes, Lauren, what a morning. It's right.
Welcome to your behind the scenes.
Danielle says, just chiming in, running late this morning. What's going on? Massive IT outage. We're going to talk about that in just a second. Howard, no kidding. We've got about 15 seconds before we get back on TV, so stand by as we kind of merge in with both Facebook and TV.
Hi, good morning to you. It's 8:27 on the start of your Friday. We're following this breaking news, a massive tech outage impacting systems all across the country, all across the world, here in Western New York. And one of the biggest impacts we're seeing is at the airport this morning.
We had been reporting the FAA had ground stopped all flights with United, Delta, and American Airlines. It appears some of those flights are in fact taking off from the Buffalo Niagara International Airport, though we did hear from some folks that said that their flight had already been rescheduled to tomorrow as a result of this massive IT meltdown from overnight. We know there are at least a dozen flights that have been delayed from the airport. Some are canceled as well. The biggest concern for the NFTA, which runs the Buffalo Niagara International Airport, is those connecting flights. So if you have a connection that you're flying to from the Buffalo Niagara International Airport, the concern is you might not get out from wherever you're going.
And it's not just airports. You could see an impact throughout your day today. We're still working to find the impact on banks. A lot of municipalities are having issues with their computers. 911 services are still operating as normal. If you call, you'll be able to get somebody there. The bridges are very backed up this morning if you're coming into the United States from Canada.
We did reach out to Customs and Border Protection to try and figure out if these are normal Friday delays and then some, or if this is a result of that IT crash from overnight. We are still waiting to hear back. Again, just to reiterate, if you are calling 911 this morning, you'll have no problem getting through to a dispatcher and they'll be able to send out crews to you. The only thing is they're dealing with those IT outages as well and operating as if it's 1993.
And we have Autumn Lewandowski in this morning tracking traffic and weather. How are things looking, Autumn?
Second Cup, brought to you by the Nickel Plate. Sit, sip, savor, and shop.
Good morning to you once again. It's 8:30 on the start of a Friday, and we are on the air with you for a special edition of Second Cup as we continue to follow this breaking news of that massive IT meltdown from overnight as a result of this cybersecurity firm that seemed to have such an issue. The New York Post just putting out an update about the CrowdStrike CEO, this obviously is his problem this morning after the failed tech update that caused worldwide chaos across the board. So I want to read what the New York what the New York Post is reporting this morning. They say the CEO of the cybersecurity firm at the heart of Microsoft's worldwide outage choked on his words as he apologized for wreaking havoc early Friday, but could not give a timeline for everything getting back to normal. The CEO addressed, for F's sake, the CEO, of course, because everything is so technology driven here.
Now you've got a
I can't get in because of the ad here. The CrowdStrike CEO basically says that they deployed a faulty software update. Computers overnight were knocked out, and banks and media outlets were knocked off the air, and they are deeply sorry for what had happened here.
All right, so let's talk about a local impact this morning. We're just now hearing from Erie County Executive Mark Poloncarz. So I'm going to have our producer John pull up his Twitter this morning. He has started an important thread, all right? Erie County being affected by this CrowdStrike global outage. All of our line safety systems like 911 are operational. However, if you have an appointment with social services, Erie County Social Services, we're planning on applying for public assistance through DSS, Department of Social Services, or you were planning to go to the county clerk's office for DMV matters, please be advised the New York State-based systems that the county ties into is inoperable, so they won't be able to help you until the state systems get back online. So please don't come to the offices for those services. So that'd be social services, DSS, and DMV.
As it pertains to the airport, the FAA closely monitoring a technological issue impacting IT systems across the country. Several airlines have requested FAA assistance with ground stops until the issue is resolved. That includes Delta, United, and American Airlines. Our Jordan Johnson is live for us at the Buffalo Niagara International Airport. And Jordan, I want to make sure that we're bringing you in here so that you could bring us up to speed with details about what you're hearing, people you're speaking to, and the frustration at the airport, because we know about a dozen flights have been delayed. Some are canceled. And while some flights are, in fact, leaving from the Buffalo Niagara International Airport, the biggest concern for the NFTA, which runs the airport, is the connecting flights at other major hubs, say like Philadelphia.
Yeah, Ed, you hit it right on the head, and I'm still in the American Airlines line that I was with Scott, and actually joining me right now is Debbie, his wife. So Debbie, kind of tell me how you're feeling right now.
A little tired because we've been standing here for 2 hours.
And barely moving.
Yeah, we have been sitting in the same spot for quite a while.
Right, and
we're standing.
Where were you guys headed?
We were going to Fargo, North Dakota for his 50th high school reunion, which we're going to miss now because it's at 5 o'clock tonight. There's no other flights. So,
and how frustrating is this for you?
I'm trying not to show my frustration. I'm trying to hide it. But yeah, I'm getting pretty aggravated.
Right, and it's something that we both can't control, right?
Nothing anybody can control. So what good will it do to get all upset about it?
Right. Well, thank you, Debbie, for joining me and bringing a little positivity into our morning show.
I appreciate her positivity. What is her biggest frustration at this point?
I think the frustration is that there's no communication. As Scott mentioned it, and Debbie also mentioned it as I was waiting for you guys to take me. And if we just walk down to this Delta counter, the line is the same thing too. It's very long.
Mm-hmm.
And everyone is kind of frustrated and a little erratic because they don't know what's happening. They don't know if they'll make it to their final destination. They don't know if they'll miss their connection or be stuck in a city that they're not familiar with.
Are these people, Jordan, right now all working to rebook flights? Is that what everybody's in line for?
Yes, exactly. So the line that I was with was rebooking, and then this line right in front of me is for checking in, which could also be those rebookies that are checking in because the kiosks are down, mind you, like we said earlier.
Right. And, we saw that TSA is clearing people, so it appears that their technology is working. But I kind of want to explain the backstory here. When you have a communications failure when it comes to IT and computer technology, a lot of these pilots, ground crews, attendants, whomever, air traffic control, all rely on a computer system to communicate from the cockpit back to air traffic control, getting updates, whatever. But if they're not able to do that, a plane can't really take off.
Peter, I like your comment here. He says, listen, Debbie's got the right attitude. There probably is frustration. If airlines only know what they know or they don't know, but she understands I'll be on her control right now.
So Jordan, Debbie had been standing there for 2 hours and she really wasn't making much progress. Is that what you're seeing at the airport? A lot of people who are just kind of stuck in limbo?
Yes, either stuck in limbo or speaking with the attendants and trying to figure out a plan to get them to their final destination. And it kind of seems like everyone is in limbo, but there are a few people going through security who may be able to get to their final destination. But that's really it. It's in limbo and a little frustrated, kind of is still in the air this morning.
Okay. Michael's joining us right now. He's saying, now, Michael, are you in Orlando? Are you traveling to Orlando? Saying that Orlando is grounding flights. We do know that a number of airlines all across the nation are grounding flights because of this. And again, what we're going to be seeing is what happens after you get a flight backlog in any case. It's those connecting flights. It's people getting stuck at airports. It's trying to get people where they need to go when they've already missed or have had canceled what's supposed to get them somewhere.
And so, Jordan, I wonder, we're looking at the board here and see about a dozen flights have been delayed. Are you seeing any more cancellations?
Let me go take a look for you real quick.
In the meantime, Jason says that his Bank of Holland account is not working, and we are seeing some folks say that they have Bank of America accounts, and those are not working either. But Lori, who joins us every morning, told us that her M&T account was in fact working with an electronic transfer from Erie County.
And by all accounts, KeyBank appeared to be working. They were checking with their third-party providers to see if there might be some interruption in their, way of doing things. But for the most part, they said systems did appear to be working.
All right, Jordan, what are you seeing?
I am seeing just one canceled flight right now, and it's for a United flight to DC. And it was supposed to depart at 10:28 a.m. and it says canceled right next to it. And that is the only one that I'm able to see, or the only one that has been updated to show.
And Jordan, Jennifer is also wondering, is this affecting Southwest Airlines as well? What are you seeing from Southwest?
Southwest, I believe, is allowing passengers to get back on the airplanes and take off just fine. I spoke with a few people that were with Southwest earlier this morning, and they're like, oh, it's not affecting us at all. We're good to go. The gate says that it's on time and it's here and we're able to board. So for right now, that's what Southwest is like.
The NFTA suggesting that regardless of what airline you're flying today or in the next couple of days, you call your airline before you leave for the airport. That'll help alleviate some of that stress.
And with that, Scott and Debbie tried calling the airline, and they said it was an 8-hour wait time to actually talk with the live representatives. So,
oh my God.
So this is those situations, where people like call and then they get on Twitter and then they try to get in line. They're doing all the things at the same time. You can guarantee people are doing that right now at the airport.
Okay. Jordan, thank you very much. I want to bring in Holly Hubert, who is a former special agent in charge for the FBI here in Buffalo, who now owns a cybersecurity monitoring global kind of concept company. She is really in tune with what goes on here when it comes to some sort of these investigations. So Holly, I want to bring you in, say good morning to you. Glad you're with us.
Hi, Holly. Good morning.
Good morning. How are you?
Good.
You're having a morning.
Yeah, right.
Holly, let me ask you, when you see this kind of meltdown, technological meltdown as a result of an antivirus software update, I'm interested with your experience and from your perspective as a former special agent in charge with the FBI, what you make of this.
It's shocking, actually. My initial response to this is how does this happen today? And CrowdStrike itself has assured the public that their computers indeed are not under attack, and it's not a breach of any sort, but this is a technical update that was essentially corrupt. And when they deployed the update, any organization that had CrowdStrike Falcon that deployed their patch, so to speak, corrupted the computer. So how does a corrupt patch be deployed by an organization this big and this professional? It's an egregious error.
You know, Holly, that's a great question because I think that a lot of us, we use these systems every day, but we probably don't know all of this back end information that you do.
Right.
So, can you explain to us CrowdStrike? Just how ubiquitous is CrowdStrike? How many systems use it, and what kinds of companies are using it day to day?
Good question. So the sweet spot for CrowdStrike is big organizations. And so they have a lot of Fortune 500 companies, and they are essentially what's called an endpoint detection company. Their software, it starts with antivirus software, and then this particular piece called Falcon is what's known as EDR. So that's an enhanced detection and response software. So what that matters, if you think of your computer at home or at work, it has antivirus software on there. But the next layer of software on top of that is called EDR. That enhanced detection and response software is sort of, to put it super simply, it's sort of antivirus on steroids. And the mission of that software is if a piece of, let's say you have a PDF, somebody clicks on a PDF in an email, that PDF is meant to be a document display product. But a PDF can often, if it's corrupt or if it's attacked, act as an executable. So essentially, this Falcon is what's known as a behavioral product in that it monitors for different software that behaves other than as it should.
So Holly,
go ahead.
Go ahead.
No, that's all that I was going to say to explain what Falcon is. And the question is how big is that? The sweet spot for CrowdStrike is Fortune 500 companies. And so, we have big banks that are using it. We have the airlines are using it. And if you don't use CrowdStrike, so everybody at home must be wondering, is my work down? If you don't use CrowdStrike, you won't be affected. And it is my understanding that it's those that use CrowdStrike Falcon, and this is specific to Windows 10 computers.
Right. So that was my next question, Holly. So we're using Macs here, and it really doesn't seem to affect the Mac operating software as much as perhaps Microsoft software.
That's my understanding, is that this is specific to Windows 10 and CrowdStrike Falcon.
Okay, so
go ahead.
Let me ask you this. Knowing that this works with Fortune 500 companies, and we're seeing the London stock market affected here, the market here opens in just about 20 minutes. Should we expect to see problems on Wall Street today?
Well, it depends. You never want to be an alarmist, but it depends on, does the SEC trading platform use CrowdStrike? If for any organization that does not use CrowdStrike will not be affected, because remember, this is a patch. This is a faulty patch that was deployed, and it's specific to Falcon.
Okay, Holly, anytime something like this happens and we see this big impact and this big negative impact, I think the thing that we look to next is, what do we do next time to make sure something like this doesn't happen? Or in your expertise, what should have happened here that didn't? Where did this all go wrong?
Great question. It just sounds to me like they failed to test the patch before they deployed it. It sounds to me it's an engineering problem. So it was some sort of fix in the computer. Like, we all have updates. You know how your computer updates every day or periodically? If you set your computer in the background to automatic updates, Microsoft or Apple for Macs, it's constantly deploying what's called updates or patches, is really what we say in the business. So when a patch or a fix is deployed, it should be rigorously tested before it goes out. Now, sometimes if there's a problem and there's a rush to fix it, it's not, ample time wasn't spent to do the ample testing on the fix itself. So it's interesting, if you've been in the IT business for a long time, years ago, you never patched immediately. You would always be a month or two behind on patching because patches were sometimes faulty. And so you always waited until all the bugs were worked out of the patches before you deployed them on your own system. Now the world changed. Now most often these updates and patches have to do with a security impact. So you deploy them right away, or a lot of times you're set to automatic updates and those patches get uploaded in the background automatically.
Holly, I just want to interrupt for a second because I'm just getting in some breaking news from the city of Buffalo, and I want you to stand by for us. This is from Buffalo City spokesperson Mike DeGeorge, now being told Buffalo City Hall is open. If you are coming to City Hall to do business, including paying bills, service may be delayed as some computer systems are down at this time. Management Information Systems is working with each department to resolve any issues. Public safety response, including police and fire, has not been impacted at this time. Now, Holly, with all of this in mind, I wonder, from an accountability standpoint, when it comes to this company, how do they now come to a point where they're held accountable? The FBI obviously has some sort of interest here to assure people that this was not a hack or cybersecurity breach. But how should they be held accountable moving forward?
Oh, absolutely. There needs to be probably a congressional investigation, having George Kurtz testify and inform America exactly what happened and how that happened. I mean, how does a company that big deploy a patch that wasn't properly tested? It's that simple. I would say, tell me exactly what is your testing process, and did somebody not check? You usually have checks and balances for something this significant. So it sounds like it was rushed out the door, or, heaven forbid, somebody maliciously inside did it. That's a leap. But, those questions are the questions that you have to ask.
Absolutely. Holly, I think the last thing I might want to ask you is, we've seen just how impactful all of this has been. In your professional experience, what kind of timeline would we look at to get things back to normal? We know that this, fix has been implemented, but how long does that take? For things to get back to where they need to be and for everything to get back to normal again.
Well, the fix that's been implemented is, my understanding, it's a manual fix where you have to go into the operating system and delete a certain file. So companies can either do it manually or they can roll the fix back. Now, it won't be quick because, remember, CrowdStrike's sweet spot are big companies. So usually these updates are deployed by IT, and they're usually global updates in the organization. So you're affecting, 1,000 seats or 10,000 seats. So it really won't be quick. I'm sure that the IT professionals impacted in each company are trying to roll back the version of Falcon, but it's pretty scary stuff.
Our engineer, Mike Anger, has been here for God knows how long overnight, Holly.
He's had a little microphone attached to his, he's been on calls. You could just tell it's been a day for him.
Realistically, this doesn't affect only us, and it did affect us overnight.
Right.
But it affected our entire company across the country. So all of our stations in places as small as Bakerfield to as large as Detroit have been dealing with this kind of an issue. So Governor Hochul now putting out there some new information saying, quote, "I'm closely monitoring impacts to critical infrastructure in New York State because of that worldwide software issue. Our top priority," she says, "is to ensure 911 systems are fully operational. A fix for the underlying issues has been identified, and we are working with agencies on a resolution." So it seems like there has been some statewide impact. Mm-hmm. Right. Though perhaps not as major as other companies.
Well, Erie County Executive Mark Poloncarz had said, listen, the reason some of these county systems aren't working are because they're tied into the statewide systems. And again, that's when he mentioned social services, DSS. What else did he mention? The clerk's office and the DMV.
Holly, any final thoughts here about what's going on here and how we move forward today?
Well, I think, we always have to get the facts before we jump to conclusions to figure out really what happened and how it happened. But the way I would follow this story would be, I would be following George Kurtz's moves and the statements made by the company, and just trying to understand how exactly a faulty patch is deployed on a global scale like this. It's really unbelievable.
Holly Huber from, who is a former special agent in charge from the FBI. We certainly appreciate you for
Holly, thank you for your insight
efforts.
this morning. It was so helpful for all of us to better understand everything.
So technological, and so many times it's like above our heads. And when you've got somebody like Holly who can explain it,
she can break it down for us.
We're very lucky to have her.
Thank you.
Take
care and all of the best. Thank you.
You too. I just want to update you, getting some new information in from the VA healthcare system that they are operating as normal. In a statement, they say the VA Western New York healthcare system is operating as normal and has no technology disruptions from that global IT issue. All veteran patient appointments are taking place as scheduled.
So it's funny because, you listen to Holly explain this, and really, so it depends. Did your company, do they use CrowdStrike as part of their system?
Right.
And if they didn't, this impact wasn't really seen there, minus maybe some third-party applications. But to hear her mention Fortune 500 companies as being users of a lot of this software, you can just see how big the impact is. And even locally, we've seen the reach of it.
She calls it shocking and an egregious error. So you better believe that heads are going to roll here. And with a congressional investigation, as she mentioned, one of those things would be, how does this happen? How does a corrupt update make it through to all of these companies to then affect global systems?
I just want to pull up Larry's comment. Larry, bringing a little levity to the situation. Well, the kids have to get off the computer and go outside and play now.
Right.
Larry, can I go outside and play now? That sounds great to me.
I mentioned that it's like 1993. Way back to a time when we didn't have cell phones, everything was done in person, and they were swiping credit cards. You remember those machines?
Oh, yeah.
Exactly.
Like, and they hand you the paper. Yeah.
I used to love that. Connie says, we'll see if or when the stock market opens. We're about 9 minutes away from the stock market officially opening with that bell on Wall Street.
We're about 4 minutes from the next cut-in we have to do, which I know where Ed's head is going when you've been working with somebody for so long. Hey, let's just, if you're just joining us, maybe we have about 600 people who've been with us this morning. We appreciate you staying with us. We could just hit a couple of the, big bullet points for you. 911 still working as normal, minus they're going to have to be doing some paper reports. We did recently just hear from Mark Polenkars with Erie County saying, again, those life safety systems operational, but it's those appointment systems, social services, DSS, the county clerk's office, the DMV, they're tied into state-based systems and they may be inoperable. So what you want to do is double check. Don't come to those offices for the services right now. Wait until the systems go back online.
Mike DeGeorge from Buffalo, the city of Buffalo, explaining to me that it's unclear if city court has made a final decision as they work through some of those issues. A lot of these court systems are also tied into the state systems as well. And as we heard from Governor Hochul just moments ago, they are evaluating what the actual impact is to some of these state systems. And as we get those immediate details, we'll be sure to bring them to you both on air and online. Larry says, imagine something like this happened and lasting 2 or 3 days or more. And the problem is that it could have some major implications and a domino effect, especially when it comes to the airlines.
Like Holly mentioned, it may not be a super quick fix. So it could take a little bit of time. Again, at the airport, so many flights are delayed, some canceled. They were still putting people through security, but we're going to have to wait and see where they get when it comes to those connecting flights. It looks like people, and some of those really busy airports, Chicago, Philadelphia, we've seen pictures from there this morning. They are really socked with people who are trying to get out.
The Buffalo Niagara International Airport had about a dozen delays this morning. A number of people have had cancellations also. While some flights are getting out from the airport, you're being urged to check in with your airline prior to leaving for the airport, though we heard from Jordan Johnson, who was at the airport for us this morning, explaining that some of the people she spoke to are having to wait hours and hours to even speak with anyone at the airlines because they're so overwhelmed.
And it's so frustrating because you just want to immediately know what's happening. But again, pack your patience.
Well, and then, so let's face it. I mean, those people are probably having computer issues just as much as we are.
They're like, I'd love to help you, but unfortunately I can't right now. Hospitals, some people have told us their procedures, they've gotten calls, procedures have been canceled, but other hospitals are saying, listen, like we spoke with Kaleida Health this morning, if you had a procedure scheduled and you didn't hear from anybody, go. go to your planned procedure. It might take a little bit longer, but plan to be there. They want you to keep coming in on time.
Same thing at Roswell Park Cancer Institute. If you have something planned there, you should still report to the hospital. They are making sure that they are mitigating any issue when it comes to patient care. And that seems to be the biggest thing at this point, is that all patients are still being treated. Things are still being handled. People are being triaged. It's just a matter of the system that they're using, as opposed to computers. They're using paper. Again, 911 systems are working as normal. And if you call 911, they'll still send emergency crews to you.
Bridges coming into the United States really backed up this morning. We've been keeping an eye on that for you.
I did hear back from the Border Crossing Agency, Customs and Border Protection. They're working on getting us information about those delays.
They're looking at it, but they don't have any information yet. But we're talking it could take you potentially an hour and a half to a couple of hours to get into the United States if you're coming from Canada. Keep that in mind if you commute from Canada.
We've got to get back on TV, so we're going to say thank you so much for joining us for this extended special edition of Second Cup. For those of you who've been watching all morning wondering what the heck the weather is going to be, because we really didn't get a chance to check in on the weather.
Good news.
Beautiful today, tomorrow, and Sunday. We're in the 70s, upper 70s in Niagara Falls today. In Genesee County, out in Batavia, 76 degrees. Jamestown, the southern tier, we're seeing 74 today, partly cloudy.
If you want to catch a quick forecast, turn on Channel 7 right now. You're going to see Ed and I do a couple of headlines, and then Autumn's got traffic and weather for you, so she'll give you those details. Thanks for joining us. Bye, guys.